Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome Albert and Kurt. Thank you for joining today. We are here to talk about forecasting and what trends we think are going to continue from 2025, but really looking into 2026. I'm really excited to have both Albert and Kurt here. We'll drop some information. I know Caitlin, who's working behind the scenes, is going to drop some information too. This is all be recorded, all those pieces, and yep, you're seeing it right now. You'll get some LinkedIn profile information in there. You're going to see that we're going to record this. So anybody who registered or has to drop early, whatever it may be, you can still get that recording in there. And what we're really going to be talking about here is how agencies are adapting in 2025 and what those trends are for that adaptation going into 2026, where we think things will change, where we think we can win, where things maybe need to be jettisoned and let go of. I'm sure there's going to be some AI. I know there's going to be some AI talk in there that's certainly part of the bubble here that we're living in and that, yeah, or is impacting all those things. So, yeah, thank you, Kurt and Albert, for joining. I'm going to start just with some quick introductions while I take care of some of the comments here. But Albert, why don't you go first? Give us an intro of what you've seen and where you've played in this role in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. So my name is Albert Banks. I ran an agency for over 2 decades. Really, my focus was on profitability, growth, operational excellence, making sure we had a great experience for our talent. In that time span, I've overseen multiple repositions, transformations of the business, sold twice, one a merger, one an exit, and the subsequent integrations that followed. And now I'm a consultant that helps other businesses, other firms help with the same challenges that I faced in my career. So that's my background.
What's the biggest challenge you think agencies will have to either overcome or address going into 26 or the biggest opportunity? What's that bold prediction potentially you got there?
Yeah, mine's kind of like not very different than what it was in prior years, but really I think it's going to be exacerbated that those that, I always say run your agency like you're going to sell it, even if you're not. They truly need to do that, right? You have to be serious about running your business, and those that are kind of just been getting by and it's good enough, are really going to be challenged. You've got pressure from AI, you've got rising costs, you've got different expectations from clients, and so those that are not really buttoned up with processes and pricing. I think there's going to be a great divide there. I think there's going to be sort of the successful ones and those that really are going to face some tough times.
Cool. Thanks, Albert. Excited to dive in here with you. And Kurt, same to you. Introduction, give us that bold prediction.
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Kurt Schmidt, and I run Schmidt Consulting, which we help agencies with growth. And my background is I've worked in a number of high growth agencies over the years and built my own agency and exited that just a few years ago and started working with other agencies. So I work with agencies all over the world, helping them with growth, whether it be with attracting new clients or with making operations as excellent as they can be to increase your profitability. And my prediction, I would say agencies really need to be focused on how they are being perceived by the outside world for next year more than any other tactic, because the way that people are buying from agencies, the way that they are sourcing agencies is very different today than it was just a few years ago. And so building an engine that can help you get the right clients in and the people you want to be working with at the prices you want to be working with them at is going to be a key differentiator for next year.
I appreciate that. And I know I mean, full disclosure, Albert and Kurt and I have talked a lot even the past couple of years. And Albert, you and I have done some soda events together. Kurt, you and I have partnered together on even some Parallax customers. And so
Yeah.
these topics, while not necessarily new to me, I think are really important to agencies out there. And I think that's critical. So actually, Kurt, let's take yours and dive in a little bit. And Albert, I want to hear your opinion too. But Kurt, when you say like they need that clarity, agencies need that clarity going in, and it's different from the clarity or different from the value proposition they needed before. Tell me what you're seeing and why that is, why that's going to impact people in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, people, if they needed something that they weren't able to do, it was pretty easy to just go out and find somebody. You just went out and you found somebody who did it, or you got a referral or things like that. These days, again, thanks to AI and many different things, people are trying to harder to fix these things themselves. And what they are is they're getting frustrated and they don't know if it's the tools and the tactics they're using or if it is just they need help doing it. And so a lot of these tools, SaaS programs, if you're doing paid media, right? Facebook is adding tons of AI to help you build your own ads. LinkedIn's doing the same. So if you're a paid media place, a lot of clients are trying to get in there and just do all this stuff themselves and take care of these things themselves. And so positioning yourself as a service provider is not as powerful as positioning yourself as an outcome or results provider. And a lot of agencies are sort of stuck in the past of providing services and promoting that they provide services. Well, you're an agency. I would imagine you provide services, so you don't have to browbeat me on your website or in your content that you provide services. What I need to understand as a business owner or as a CEO or a CFO or a CMO or whoever your ICP is, I need to know what results am I going to get? What are the outcomes that I'm purchasing? Because that's what people are buying today, more so than they are buying services. And so the agencies that I see that are winning more this year and are winning into next year are the people that are talking about the outcomes you're going to get when you work with them. And
Yeah. Well, and Albert, so that you kind of run the gamut of consultancies and agencies that you work with, right? From, it sounds like the small to some larger ones. Would you say that's holding up true? Kind of Kurt's evaluation that the ones that are winning from big to small have that ability to demonstrate value?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think, taking the market a little further, like positioning is huge, like externally owning an area, right? Like where's the area that you can truly win and whether you're providing a service or a product, you're appealing to the broader market and the client profile. But yeah, I would agree. Like not only do you need to be more based on value, you need to probably price yourself that way as well, right? Like focusing less on the billable hour, time and materials needs to go away, right? Like it's about the outcome. And so if that's what they're looking for, your pricing should reflect that as well, right? So if they're changing the model, let's change our model as well, right? Obviously, we need to know the cost of delivery. We need to overcome that. We need to make margin, but it doesn't have to be tied directly to that. That's table stakes, right? Cover your costs, of course. Yeah, so those that are looking at how they charge clients differently in this new world, I think they will be much more successful. And frankly, there's probably a short amount of time now where companies can make additional margin by leveraging AI before they have to start charging less, right? So there's an opportunity here to gather some additional margin by higher charging.
And so in that case, right? Like, so I come with an ops background. I could say generally, and or even pretty specifically in some of the places I was at, what my margins were per offering, per department or even skill set that we were looking at. How would you recommend, Albert, that like an ops person go and talk to like someone who's on the pricing selling side, right? Like, 'cause sometimes those are founders, sometimes those are business development director. Like, where would you engage them in sort of that conversation that needs to happen?
Yeah, I think it's in my view, operations is empowering the information, right? They're providing the details of what things cost and how much time things will take. And then in this new future, like how that will change with AI or whatever new thing comes about, right? And then, so that's just more informing those that need to make the pricing decisions. There needs to be a deliberate pricing exercise that takes that into an account, but it really should be a totally separate conversation, decoupling price from cost. And it's what are you seeing out in the market? What are people charging? What is the value? What are you sharing with the clients? And that really should come from the leadership as well as what's the premium you want to put on your service, or what are the models that we we want to maybe try that are maybe a little bit different than the past.
Yeah, Kurt, I see you nodding along. You agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Again, I would add too, is there's a culture around this as well inside of your organization that needs to be addressed. It's not just a process problem, but you have to look at it as a cultural problem too, because I can't tell you how many times I have seen agencies when the work starts to dry up, how they take their foot off the gas. And they're used to, well, why aren't things showing up like they used to? And they spend months trying to figure out why things aren't showing up instead of getting aggressive and going out and attacking those things. But why aren't they going out and doing those things? Because they don't have those muscles. They haven't used those muscles, and they haven't probably used those muscles since the founder was just that person and maybe one or two other people. And so they've lost sort of that spark, because culturally and process oriented, we don't work like that anymore. And that's become a real problem because those are things that you need to be able to go back to find success. You need to be able to dismantle the things that you've done to this point. And I think, again, just like what Albert's saying here, is what got you here isn't necessarily what's going to get you there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're even touching on a couple points. Of course, we'll talk about AI, but even Albert and Kurt, what you both are saying is, if I heard you correctly, one is, hey, that muscle that got you started earlier when you were a small, tight-knit team and maybe hungry, right, for that feedback of, oh yeah, the market is listening to this message and it does value this. Like, get back to that, and that I think goes with the theme of smaller, smarter teams will, I think, navigate some of that. And then Kurt, I think the other side too is like whenever you say culture, right? I think like teams. So
Mhm.
is the team enabled to think of a way, which generally means a broader part of it, but what are your guys' takes? And Kurt, why don't you go first? And Albert,
Yeah.
I want your take on it too.
Yeah, and I think you talked about this, but it depends on the size too. I mean, a lot of the agencies I work with are mid-size sort of in groups, and culturally, it's moving as a big machine because the founders have worked so hard to get everybody to row the same way. But the problem is that the business actually operates in multiple facets, and so to your point about small teams, it doesn't mean about reducing the size of your agency. It means about building special teams within your agency versus trying to just make everybody move a new direction, which is impossible to do and not a smart thing to do because you already have work in progress. Those clients don't need to be upset. But back to the smaller team idea, when I hear the idea of like smaller teams, it doesn't mean a smaller business. It means about more specialization.
And Albert, again, you agree, or were you seeing kind of those conversations happening where the innovation is actually gaining the foothold needed for agencies to navigate kind of the future here?
Yeah, I think smaller is successful and it's just sort of a coincidence, right? Like they're smaller, so therefore they're more focused. The bigger you get, you start to take on additional services, more influences within engagements, right? And so just naturally that starts to dilute. So you can still have, yeah, focused business areas. You can have leadership from the top, ensuring that we've got that spark, we've got the sort of small agency feel, and we're embracing AI or we're embracing whatever the next thing is. If you have that spirit, then you can continue to be successful even if you're larger. And you've got to watch out for margin, of course, because at the larger scale you've got sort of that middle management layer, right? So you are inherently sort of being more more focused there. But I still believe that a high-end strategy, high-end creative, right, thoughts from humans are really critical in what is being purchased here. And so as long as you're staying sharp in those things and not being just okay with good enough, you can be successful regardless of size.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a couple newsletters out there that I follow that do like the AI blunders, and of course Deloitte's work with the Australian government, right? Like, and you hear about those, and I think you're right around the human aspect, the quality assurance effectiveness, right? Of like bringing that thought leadership is absolutely spot on. As those teams sort of adapt, or essentially, I'm here is like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but also like find those areas that are gonna give you that next horizon, right? Like it, tell me how people are doing that. Like that, I think we make it sound easy, but I think for a lot of our customers, it's daunting, right? And there is change management. There's sort of the emotional investment of AI and will this everything from take my job to wow, this is really making my product better, right? Like my end output. How are teams engaging maybe mentally in that for success? And then again, like tactically, what are those one or two things that you're seeing that's like, oh yeah, we should maybe try that. Albert, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think I think Kurt hit on it, right? Like going back to the mentality when you started the agency or when you were smaller of like this is a new thing. We're gonna grasp it. We're gonna go for it. We're gonna experiment. We're gonna break stuff, right? Having that mentality and recycling that, like we've gone through this cycle with technology, right? We saw it with web, we saw it with mobile, now we're seeing it at AI. So like you're at the beginning of this cycle, so you've got to do that. You've got to
Yeah.
try stuff. It's going to be challenging. But you have to have that right mentality, or you're certainly going to get left behind, just like every other cycle. So embracing it, I guess, is probably the number one thing. And then number two, but also still run a good business. Like you can do both, right? You can try
Yeah.
stuff and break stuff, but also still have your house in order, right? Like you're mature enough now to be able to calculate these things, have data, be informed, do your research, like invest in training, and do the things that a mature company would do. So I think it's do both.
Yeah. Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is agencies move this at the speed of the founder. So if the founder isn't interested in trying out these things themselves, they're not sending the right signals to their teams. If they're pushing it off on their teams and saying, well, go look at this. Should we be using Cursor instead or something? Like that person should load up Cursor and try it out. That founder should be doing it, or that CEO or whoever is the head person, because we take so many cues from leadership in a business. And if we don't see those cues coming from them that this is an important thing or this is a transformative thing, we'll assume it's not, and that we're not worried. We are not worried about it. And so I will just continue to go back to my spreadsheets and just work those things. And so, yeah, exactly what Albert's saying is that you have to get out there and start pushing the boundaries and start breaking some things. And let's be clear. I mean, again, 90% of the businesses out in the world right now are using AI to just help them write some emails. So it's not, yes, it is a transformative technology, but it is not transforming those things, right? And there's never been a time where tech has fixed culture in the history of the human race. Again, it goes back to a leadership standing up and saying, this is what's important. This is what we are. This is my vision and where I see what good looks like. And if you can't explain that, that's one reason why you're struggling with adopting these things.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that when I was a leader of an agency, I think both of you have probably reflected this in your own careers. It's also being that calm in the storm.
Oh yeah.
Right. And even there is a little bit of fake it till you make it when it comes to potentially AI. It's like, I mean, I wouldn't do great with Cursor, frankly. I was looking at Google's anti-gravity. That was interesting, in terms of how they're trying to get in there. But like, I wouldn't be able to demonstrate that across an app. But I've incorporated AI and, some RCS stuff. At the end of the day, though, too, I said, CS team, like you are responsible for what you communicate to a customer, right? And like a human has to be that person. Use it to be more efficient, but it's sort of like those guardrails. But I don't know what that looks like in the future. And it kind of comes down to the tools, kind of comes down to a lot of different factors. And I think that's been challenging for me. And I think that can be hard for others. But I think you're both right in that you don't have to upheave the whole business. You don't have to redefine everything. Promethean, a research group, came out and said, about what 2 to 5% of agencies are actually doing value-based pricing. And we could get into like what that even means right now. But I think there's still time for companies to adopt and adapt and make sure it's right for them without losing their shirt in their whole business right now. So
yeah, and there's a ton of opportunity in it. There is so much opportunity. Again, just like any new technology that's shown up, like the iPhone, big data, the internet, whatever. Like I have never seen less work come out of a new technology. So AI is going to create more work for us, but it's how we're positioning ourselves that makes the difference. The people who are going to stick to the old thing and say, well, we don't do mobile development. We're still doing custom HTML. We don't do WordPress. We're only going to do custom HTML websites. Yeah, though, guess what? Those places are not around anymore. So the same's going to happen here.
A couple questions coming in, and yeah, let's drum on. First one, will a transcript be made available? Good question, anonymous attendee. I'm sure we can figure that out for you. Ping Caitlin or myself. And then the other question, are you seeing agencies creative value in other ways, creating apps, technologies that their internal teams or customers have access to as a way to add value? If so, are those categories or applications? So I think it's internal investment of AI tools that add value to customer relationships or maybe to internal teams. I've got a couple examples, but Kurt, you want to go first on anything that you're seeing in the market?
Yeah, I mean, number one, do you have a budget set aside for this? Yep. Because again, they quickly turn into distractions and not useful tools. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to come up with a budget for what you're going to spend on it, not just a bucket of internal hours that people are spending on it when they're in between projects. There needs to be a roadmap, a plan, a rollout plan. There needs to be some sort of path to revenue with everything, right? So if you look at Target years ago, they changed their whole internal innovation team to saying, if you can't show a path to revenue in 2 years, we shut it down.
Yep.
And so you have got to have that same mentality. Otherwise, they can become distractions. What do you think, Albert?
Yeah, absolutely would agree with that. As someone who has started and failed at most sort of products within a service agency, I will admit, yes, absolutely, it can be a distraction. You have to set aside time, money, maybe even get investment if that's really what you want to do
Yeah.
and bring a product to market. And I've seen that it'd be most successful when it's sort of spun out of a service business and received investment. So that's maybe a whole nother topic. But if you're going to do it internally, yeah, exactly. What is the benefit to the organization? We built our own internal content management system that we used back in the day before your WordPresses, right? And that was a means to an end, right? It was for us to be able to do our work better, more consistently, and sometimes charge more. And it was more of a subscription type of relationship versus a one-time project, which is really what we were doing mostly at the time. So I'd also highly encourage people to look at, different models. Like I've heard of this sort of subscription model, right? Like maybe you're providing regular tangible assets. Maybe it's reports or analysis. Maybe you're providing some sort of ongoing service. So it's not just short-term ROI, but something that you're ongoing providing a client. And so think bigger, right? Think differently about the things that you're providing.
Yeah. Parallax, of course, being a product company, and we have agents and AI tools out there. And I think one of the biggest things we've learned is the end user's perceptions of AI value are very different than probably where you embark from.
Yeah.
And so I always like internal teams are great. And I think Kurt, that's why you're like still budget it, treat it like it's a real project. Albert, I think you're saying too, it's like, and if it's good for internal, you should see revenue or some sort of figure attached that demonstrates next phase of success. As a product team, man, it's AI is also a really interesting space when you start doing this. And we didn't do the little chatbot AI stuff. Like that stuff is out there. I think that's a lower hanging fruit. We have agents out there. And what I was even reading in insurance groups is people had a tolerance for an 11% error when it was a human agent. They had a 1% tolerance for an AI agent. And that is just like that. Those are the challenges. And I think you need to embrace that and understand like definitely the guardrails. 80% of the way there with any product is great. That last 20% is going to be the hardest part, refining it, getting it down, and you have to account for that. So I think that's a really good question around how are creative agencies doing that. I've also seen dashboards created through agentic workflows. I've seen, generative text and recommendations based off that creates prompts for upsells. And I think all of those are really appropriate routes from when I've heard, especially when you think about agencies getting lean and wanting to make sure that they're running their business really well, right? Performatively. Okay, those PMs and those account managers, client leads, giving them those prompts. And Kurt, I know this is something you love, like resell to the people you're already selling to. Tell them about the new services that you have. And AI is really good about going through a call and saying, hey, they asked about SEO. Have you talked to them about SEO? And those sorts of pieces can pay out really quickly without even being client facing. So Kurt, yeah, I like tell me about some of the work that you're doing there.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the first things that I would say to do is go to your existing client base and ask, would you buy this? Would you use this? If we made this. But if it's like kind of what Albert was talking about, more of an internal tool, if the path to revenue is higher profitability, then you should talk to your CFO, or if you don't have a CFO, somebody outside of the bubble in your agency that can, bring some clarity to, would this really do it, and can we really track it? Because I mean, again, one of the reasons why we build overhead in agencies is not necessarily to just for the sake of building overhead. It's communication. It's to add. And so that's where I think AI could really shine and help us keep our organizations a bit flatter if we build communication tools, and better communication tools, or enhance the communication tools we have that matches our culture and not and matches the way we like to work with our clients. I've seen people using these tools for building better client onboarding systems. And then also, I've worked with a lot of places to build better offboarding systems, and making AI, an agentic AI, be a part of that to make those things smoother, more consistent, and people have a better experience. So again, start with those areas there's some clear pain points that you can experiment with, that you're not going to blow up the ship.
Yeah. Well, and I just posted kind of another poll question, but give us like I missed the numbers, like a 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah.
If AI is about to save me hours, ruin my inbox, replace my spreadsheets, or become my emotional support bot, I guess 5 for all of the above. But Albert, I think to that point around Kurt, let's just say, like, if you don't have that internal resource to go say, hey, what should my budget be? What does success look like to this? You and Albert are those types of people, right? So Albert, like, how do you engage your customers when they come to you with questions around like, how do we approach this? How do we budget this? Like, how do we make sure we've got the team dedicated to its success?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, like you probably just pick a percentage of your revenue, right? Just like we've done in all of our days as we started to realize, oh, we need to spend on marketing or PR or sales or whatever. And maybe it replaces a budget that you're currently using, right? Like I think of account growth. That was a big pivot in our evolution, was to split the project management, account management role. And that meant account managers had less utilization, and therefore effectively were investing their time, right? That's so that it becomes a cost almost. And so maybe that replaced some of the new business costs that we've got. I think in the AI world, it's things like enhancing that, right? If there's a challenge of selling additional services, well, yeah, you should be capturing all those transcripts. You should be asking it questions. And large organizations or networks or roll-ups, right? Having an agent review those transcripts across clients, right? And finding where there's opportunities across the network. Those are things that can be more valuable. But yeah, I think it's making clear that there is an investment and figuring out what your expectation of the result is, and that generally will help you identify where in the budget should it fall.
Yeah, and Stephanie saying, ruin my inbox, replace my spreadsheets. Ian saying kind of all of the above. Kurt, Albert, where do you see AI impacting you the most?
I'm just saving more time during the week in
Yeah.
the administrative work that needs to get done. That's it. It's helped me creatively. It's helped been a great creative partner in a number of ways. If you prompt it right, it can be a challenger to you and challenge you on your ideas and the things that you're doing. It can help you find blind spots based on the more you work with it, right? And again, you've got to use it well, and you've got to be good at prompting. You've got to be able to be good at orchestrating the AI, because it is literally artificial intelligence. It's artificial. It's not intelligence. It's fake intelligence, basically. So it, again, like, and I love that, that become my emotional support bot. If you look at the stats and how people are using GPT, Chat GPT, the majority of that's what they're using it for. They're using it to talk to as a buddy or as a friend or whatever. They're not solving their pay-per-click issues, or they're not solving do we have too many or not enough call to actions on our website. They're not using it to do things that replaces what agencies are doing. And so we have to stop this whole madness about thinking that this AI is coming to destroy us, when actually it's going to come and help us hopefully be more profitable if we use it correctly.
Yeah,
Albert, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's this, I don't know if it's an actual quote, but this is my perspective. Every technology relationship we've designed has made us more human, not less.
Yeah.
And this is just the next one. But it does change us, right? Like our behaviors change, our expectations change. And so yeah, if you want it to be your emotional support bot, that's great. Well, then maybe you're mentally healthier, right? I don't know. I've also seen people with prompts that are like, stop being so nice to me, be brutally honest, right? Like I need that tough friend. And so there's a way to sort of choose your own adventure there. But for sure, for AI, for me, it's absolutely saved me hours. I mean, I was always a notorious note taker, and inevitably, if you're the one taking notes, it's hard for you to participate in a conversation, right? And now that has totally been resolved. I can jot down a couple of key points here, but if I'm recording and getting a summary, even if I've had to do some minor edits to make it, more accurate after the fact, it's allowed me to be more present. It's allowed me to do better work, form better connections, and maybe probably even have more accurate notes at the end of the day. So that simple thing has totally changed my behavior and how I work through a large portion of what I do, or thinking of the right word to say in a proposal or a report or an assessment, right? That's not my strength necessarily, but that fake intelligence can do a pretty good job at it, right? And I just got to make sure it is exactly what I meant it to be.
Yeah, I mean, a great example is that new Coca-Cola ad that came out that's all built with AI that everybody's beating up on. It took 100 people to make that ad with AI. And agencies are worried that AI is coming for, no, sorry. No, it's time to use it as a superpower and not as a doomsday scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are groups, and we touched on this earlier. There are internal budgets being brought in, and there is more pressure on some of those teams to produce more from
Oh yeah,
what might have been
CapEx
budgets
is going to
going.
be huge next year for businesses. It's going to be a big CapEx year next year with the interest rates coming down. People are going to be investing, but again, they're only going to be able to go so far without your expertise to take them to the next level.
Yeah, and I think, even where people are engaging on like that emotional level with AI, what as consultants are we able to do? Like we can go in and listen first, right? And
Right.
oftentimes what like we know our customers and our clients know how to solve the problem, but they need to talk it out and they need somebody, that third party voice, to come and be like, no, you're on the right path. Here's how you do
They
it.
need a partner,
Yep. And I
not a
think
vendor.
that's where agencies have always lived and thrived anyway, right? Where the problem got bad enough where it's like, I need to bring in an outside resource, that consultant. And guess what? I mean, I think the most successful agencies I've seen out there have that discovery, right? That's still that wedge offering to go in, listen, hear the problem. We're trying to implement this tech stack or this AI solution. Well, guess what? It's still a data problem. You got to fix the underarching data issue. Bring someone in. Well, we don't have anybody budget for that. Great. We can help you with that. And it's still those pieces that enable those operations, those values within other organizations. And I think it sounds tried and true, but I think it is true. There's still a lot of opportunity here. I love that quote that technology just emphasizes our humanity, Albert, because I think that's what we're seeing here too. We're getting up a little bit closer to time. Kurt, someone's asked about the trophies. Someone must know you. BMX is what I'm guessing on those trophies. I'll answer that. Yeah, answer that one live. Check, done. They can follow up with you if they have more questions. Albert and Kurt, so as we focus on 2026 and looking at, yeah, small to mid to maybe large agencies, what don't they see coming? Or what is the thing that they haven't leaned into more that they should, and they should be talking about their teams today about? That's a loaded one.
It's interesting because I don't know that the answer has changed much year over year, right? I think there's just going to be more emphasis on it. I mean, Kurt brought up like the cost, right? Look, those good real health insurance costs have gone up, right? That's affecting us both personally, but as well, especially if you're a business providing that, which in the United States is definitely the case. AI, unlike a lot of technology, will actually cost more the more you use it, right? And so right now that's been paid for by all the investment dollars that have been put into it. But eventually, and you're already seeing this, right? It's a consumption model, right? So these are just two examples of costs that are going to continue to rise, certainly in 2026 and perhaps beyond. So that's going to eat into your margin, right? So how are you going to adapt to that? Are you going to raise prices? Are you going to focus on your operational model? Are you going to create more repeatable processes and delivery mechanisms? And so it's just more emphasis on running a business that's operationally sound, is based in data, and you're reacting to what's sort of around the corner. So those are just a couple of heads up of things that are coming in 2026. I'm sure there are more, and there are probably more that are affecting other businesses. It was unexpected going into this year, but tariffs obviously affected a ton of agencies' clients, right? And so that you couldn't prepare for that necessarily. But think through some of the larger macroeconomic things that are happening in the world, and are some clients that you thought were great, they're actually at risk, right? So planning ahead and getting out of your world and thinking about how things might affect you next year is a great time of year to do that.
Kurt?
Yeah, I would say kind of back to what I was saying earlier about where I see things. I agree with Albert. They should be focused on the staples, and one of those staples is building more trust and building as much trust as possible, and showing you are trustworthy and you are an authority. And again, that doesn't mean become a LinkedIn influencer or TikToker or whatever the case may be, but there's got to be a focus on selling trust first We sell services second. We sell trust first. That's what we do as agencies. You can trust me. You can give me your budget and I will get you results with your thing. And so that's what people are buying. Back to your point about they don't trust AI, right? I can go out in the woods. I can take a picture of some mushrooms with ChatGPT and be like, hey, are these safe to eat? And it'd be like, sure, yes, those are great. Would I eat those mushrooms? Probably not. But that's what clients are feeling the same way. And if they know that you're coming up as if they know that you're showing up as a trustworthy source, and this goes for even retaining the clients that you have, because so many people, I'm just going to be honest, like they get a little lazy with their current clients. Once they're in the door, they're not quite as special to them as they were when they were wooing them in the beginning. And so again, continuing to build trust so you don't get bid up against some other place coming in and saying, well, we could do what they're doing better and cheaper because we're using AI or whatever. That client's going to have to look and be like, do I pay for trust, or am I just have to get to the lowest common denominator? And if you're building a growing agency, you can't be the lowest common denominator. You can't commoditize yourself. And so trust is everything. And you've got to be working on trust for next year. Trust with your partner, your current partners, building trust with people external, and then building trust internally with your team. Because again, if they're feeling the trust internally and you're building a strong culture, that comes across in the work every time.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, Kurt, you and I talk about is, and I love the same from you, is agencies are 80% communication, 20% delivery, right?
Yep.
And that, we've all got our agencies delivering creative code, consulting, whatever it may be, but how you communicate, how you stay in touch, how you demonstrate that value, how you talk about how you are or aren't using AI establishes that baseline for trust. And I think that's a really big piece. So, if I'm even just deciphering from the two of you, okay, if you don't know where your budgets lie and where your profitability and where you are going to be successful in the future in terms of your current offerings, Albert, right? Like you don't have a good stance of your P&L, and at a project level, hopefully, or service level, start there. One.
Yep.
Two, when it comes to AI, where do you sit? Where are you using it? Where aren't you? Communicate that to your team. Make sure they're aligned, that they feel confident they can do that. And then use that same message and go to your customers. And then meld those two things together, find those narrow niche spots where the two come together, and start going to market with that to your existing customers, to new customers, and building from there. I mean, that's build your agency, right? Like, I mean, yes, that's such an easy thing to say. I know it's much harder than that, but those are, I think, are three core areas that I see our customers doing and working hard, and it's an evolution. It's not an overnight thing.
No, it's not an overnight thing. You got to build systems, and those systems take time to build.
Yeah. Parting thoughts or parting questions. Get your questions in if you want them. We can stick around longer, but Albert, starting with you, coming into 2026 here, where do you want to see agencies go, and where do you see success here to kind of like, let's start. I mean, yeah, tariffs, healthcare, all things could be like, why am I in this business? But where are the benefits? Like, why should they keep going?
Oh, you're your own boss. Gosh, I mean, like you ultimately are the decider, right? You get to make the hard choices, and so follow your passion, right? And Kurt's right. People follow the leader, right? Make sure you're clear on your why and where you want to go. And the end of the year is a great time to sort of reflect on that and spend some time outside of your business thinking about how it works and just get out of the day to day. So definitely do that exercise for yourself personally as a leader in the organization. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest advice I would give right now is to work on your business, take a little time out of the business and think big picture, what do you want? And then that can help chart the path forward and explain to your team what those things are and why that's important. They're really looking for that rationale, and to Kurt's point, that builds the trust that you're going to need to continue on the journey.
Yep.
Kurt?
Talk to your clients. Talk to them more. Please.
Well,
just do it. Just talk to your clients more. That's what you should be doing, because nobody has a better idea of what's good that you do and what's bad that you do than your clients. You can sit there in whiteboards and with your team and talk about all the things that you could or should or would do. Talk to your clients more. They'll tell you. They'll tell you what exactly they need and want. And if you're an operator of an agency here and you work with a boss, and you want to get them to move different ways, the way I used to always do it with my bosses is I just get the clients to want it. If the clients wanted it, the boss will do whatever we want to do. Don't go and pitch your boss on new ideas. Go and pitch your clients on some new ideas and see what they say. And if they don't think it's a good idea, well, then it's probably not a good, I wouldn't take it to the boss anyways. But again, yeah, it comes back to, for me, kind of back to predictions, like it's obvious to me, maybe not to other people, but to me, we are in some sort of recession right now, or recession-ish. And every single recession time for the agencies I've either owned or were an employee of was growth years. They were really good for us. Why? Well, but all these layoffs and things are happening. Yeah, but guess what? The work doesn't stop. Just because they lay off 15,000 people does not mean they're like, yeah, let's just do less work. That's not what's happening here. Okay. And so what will happen is that there needs to be some time where there's some reconciliation inside the organization. And then the person who now had 3 hats now has 6, is finally getting their voice heard now 3, 6, 12 months later. And they're like, all right, what do you need, to get this thing done? I need help tomorrow. And we can't go through a 3-month hiring cycle. So, okay, let's just bring in somebody. Let's go find somebody to bring in. And what do? They'll go to Google and they'll ask friends, who should I hire? Ask colleagues. They'll reach out to somebody on LinkedIn and they'll look for a referral. And so if you're not top of mind and if you don't have trust for these people, you're just not going to be thought of. So again, back to my point, talk to your clients more. You're not, I guarantee you're not talking to them enough.
Yeah, I love that. Three kind of parting pieces here. One is a little bit of a shameless pitch here for Parallax. If you are having a hard time, to Albert's point, working on the business, if you are having a hard time trying to find the time to talk to your customers because you are so ingrained in the tactical, wondering what's going to happen tomorrow with your business, check out Parallax. We just launched a new website. That is where we specialize in the forecasting and aligning your pipeline with your active work, making sure you've got the right roles so that your business, it doesn't remove all the peaks and valleys, but it certainly lessens them. Twice implemented it at organizations, one of which founded in 2008, right? Recession heavy year, housing market crash, and we took off and it really had a great number of years. Parallax was a big contributor, and that's why I believe in the tool.
Yeah, and I can say, and this is not pandering, this is the honest truth. I mean, at my last agency, one of the reasons why we were able to get it to where we were at is because we were using Parallax. And this is, even in the early days, it was still a magical tool compared to whatever spreadsheets we could come up with, and really helped us position ourselves in a way where we could exit our company the way that we were hoping to. If that is a plan for you in the future, and you're not using Parallax, it's well, I feel for you.
And conversely to that too, right? So we organize the data. You need the impetus, you need the catalyst to know you're on the right path. Albert and Kurt are great resources for that, even if it's just a sounding board. And I would just say thank you, Albert and Kurt, for joining today, sharing your expertise. There is a wealth of information of people who have done this before or that know how to get it done in the future. And I just really appreciate you two sharing your insights with me. I always learn a ton. Thank you for everyone who's joined. I really appreciate it. Reach out to these two, reach out to myself with questions. We love solving these sorts of problems, having these kinds of conversations. So thank you both for your time today. For all of you in the US,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. For all of you in the US, have a great Thanksgiving. I know our Canadian friends have already had theirs. I really hope it's a great stress-free holiday situation for all of you who joined or watched this recording. Thank you for the time, both of you, and we'll see you guys, I'm sure, soon.